Welcome back, guys. Automotive Inc. here. So I thought I would do kind of like a 7-month ownership wrap-up of living with the 7.3 Godzilla F-250. It is a 2022, and I did call it the General. If you guys are new to the channel, thank you for being here. Look down there in the corner and smash that button so you can enjoy more of my content. But let's get to things that I like about the Super Duty. So, at work, we pretty much drive mostly Ford trucks, not by choice, that's just what they buy. And I've bought mostly Ford over the last several years, really enjoyed most of those vehicles, and have had basically zero to no problems. I've owned tons of Fords in the past, I've owned tons of Chevys. Matter of fact, we can pan over here and see Kong. And it was one of those things where I bought this truck with kind of all of the problems that were out there with the 7.3. A lot of people saying that there were issues with the lifters and valves and everything like that. And those issues are out there. There's about a 2% chance you get one of these engines, and you know, those were kind of relegated to the early 20 models when this engine came out. But you know, they probably produced, I don't know, 1 million of these motors within a short span, and they kind of just pull them off the shelf and they get jammed in here. So the General is a 2022. You know, overall, we put about 6,200 miles on this guy. And one thing I can tell you is whether you're a Ford fan or a Chevy fan or a Ram fan, you want the truck to feel good. It has to kind of fit your personality and everything like that. And I think this truck for the most part did. Being an XLT of the premium package, it gave me everything that I wanted, including heated seats. It gave me the running boards, a little bit more pizzazz on the wheels, fog lamps, a few other extras, and I really did enjoy that. Now, as we talk about exterior styling, when I first saw the 23s, I was like, okay, I think it looks good. But after seeing several in person, I think they look good. Although I'm just still not a fan of their the way they integrated the side box steps and the tailgate, or the bumper steps. I'm telling you that they just don't look as well thought out as the Chevy. Again, that's a personal preference, so it's not as big a deal to everybody around there. Another thing that I really enjoyed, I do like these wheels, but what I will tell you is you're going to need to keep them clean, keep the brake dust off of them, because they do pock pretty easily, and that's just typical. I mean, brakes get warm, brake dust is even hotter, falls on that pretty chrome looking stuff, and it's gone. Now, the chrome itself did fare pretty well over the winter, and I'm pretty happy with that. Although I will tell you this much, most of my driving is in town. So as for high speed, you know, salt spatter and mag chloride spatter, I really didn't experience a lot of that. So it basically could be, you know, just sheer luck that that's how my commute works. Now, things that we did do to the General is put a nice Lear 650M on there at first. Like that bed cover, it was about $1,100. It did the job very well, but it sat pretty high. So I figured if I was gonna have a tonneau on there, I would then try a cheap one. So sold the 650 and bought this cheap one. And actually for under $500, this thing was actually pretty awesome. They make it for the Ford, they don't make it for the Chevy, although it's about the exact same one. But I do put a tonneau on all my trucks because I always carry gear in there, and I just like having that extra storage. Another thing that we did do is we went ahead and swapped out all the incandescent bulbs with LEDs. That was nice, and that was a pretty good deal. One thing I will tell you though is if you're going to get a Super Duty, I'd highly recommend getting the tailgate step or the old guy step, whatever you want to call it, because this doesn't do it justice in the driveway, but I mean, this thing sits tall. So if you need to access your bed from any point, that step is nice. So you can put some aftermarket ones on there, but I've just never been a fan of the look of that. Takes the streamlined look out of the truck itself. Other than that, we did put Timbrins on, but the Timbrins are off right now. We did that just to kind of keep load leveling and sway control. You know, had a nice slider and everything like that. I mean, overall, I really enjoyed this body style. And again, I like this body style over the 23 in just about every configuration, all the way down to XL. I think it looks nicer. The headlights are more well thought out. And I like the lines of the hood when you're sitting in the truck, and the overall look of the truck better. But again, that's just personal preference. When climbing the cab, I did put some of those on there. That just protects the guards there at the bottom of the door. from boots because I wear work boots all the time. And then overall, the interior's fared really well for 6,000 miles. I mean, I do treat my vehicles nice, but there were lots of opportunities where I got off work and got my work clothes in here. So no staining, no nothing like that. Seats again are very, very comfortable in comparison to others. They are softer. I would say in the line of things, Chevy, GMC are the firmest seats. Next in line would be Ram, and the softest would be Fords. So again, if you're Goldilocks, you can feel free to check all those trucks and see which one's most comfortable for you. I've said this all the time: when you're towing, you want good sized mirrors, and Ford delivers on that. I think these are really good mirrors. I wish I had that cornerback like on my 08, that little indent. It looks good outside, but I just want more square footage. And then again, on this trim level, you have blind spot monitoring, which is nice. Ford gives you a lot of the safety tech and has been doing that for years, and they've been giving it in lower packages. Even in the XL, you get some extra like stuff like auto high beams and whatnot, and that's new to some manufacturers just this year. But all in all, again, the XLT, if you get the premium, you get the power scope mirrors and stuff like that. Really good there. I like the zone lighting. The button placement on everything's really good. This trim level, you'll get a composite steering wheel, but it's fared well over the 6,000 miles. I mean, we really haven't seen any type of wear or tear inside the car that we didn't ourselves put in here. You mean, kick the dash or kick a plastic on accident or whatnot. But all in all, it's done really well. All of the lights inside the 22 and before are going to be like this turquoise looking light. Really easy on the eyes. It's really nice. One of my favorite features though for the Ford is right here is this cup holder, because if you have kids, you get a lot in the bucket seats. I don't know any other manufacturer that gives you the potential of 4 cup holders, and they kept this for 23, so that is really nice. In the 22 and earlier, the wireless chargers down there for your phones in there. Not the best placement, but the fact it's there, it's kind of cool. I do like having all the cubbies and whatnot like that. And then again, just all the extra storage here. In this trim level, not lit glove boxes at all. But there is some ambient light down in here at night coming down off these buttons, and then also in your large console. And again, this thing is gigantic, and I think that these 2 rails will actually fit a hanging file, so kind of a nice little deal there. Again, for just being an XLT, having all these buttons, but even on our XL work trucks, I have all these buttons, so it's actually pretty nice. Another one of my favorite features is the you can see it right over there. Let's get rid of that noise. Is the gear selector. I just think it's nice that it has it. Again, if the transmission's working good, like the Chevy that I have with the Allison, I don't feel like it's necessary. But my earlier version, my 21 Chevy, man, I wish I knew what gear it was in, because I don't think it did as well, grade braking, everything like that. So, but good little screen down there to do all the work that you need to do in the vehicle. Now, as for comfort, again, it just depends on your preference. If you like a firm seat, then the Ford might not be for you. It might actually cause you back pain. So you really need to go out and spend some time in it. And my suggestion was, when you're getting close to pulling the trigger on any new vehicle, go see if you can rent the thing for a week from Enterprise or some other place. I'm not affiliated with Enterprise, it's just the first one that comes to mind. Go out and rent it, and you'll be amazed that Enterprise actually does rent heavy-duty trucks, both gas and diesel. Crew cabs, 1-ton dualies and stuff like that. So if you don't even want to get in the game of buying one of these trucks, you can just go rent one, employer trailer. But keep in mind, during the summer, they go through those trucks really quick. So if you need a truck predominantly in the summer, you're going to want to do a long-term rental or whatnot, and that can be a little expensive. But if you're just test driving one and you want to figure it out, go rent one for a week and see if it really floats your boat. Keeping in mind, some of those are going to be a little bit lower trims, not work truck trims necessarily, but like the lowest XLTs. You may not get heated seats, you may not have power extending mirrors, but those are all packages that you can add if you're like, ooh, I'd really like that creature comfort. So nonetheless, not too bad. Now, if you watched the video the other day about the Ram that I had I drove for about 100 miles that day. No, I didn't, be at about 150, because I remember I had to do another delivery downtown. So nonetheless, I gripe about Ram's crew cab size in their HD trucks, and some of those guys in their half-ton market will be like, well, no, my half-ton has a great extended or crew cab. It does, but the mid-model refresh that Ram got left them still with that old crew cab. And again, now if you don't need to haul people or gear, then you won't necessarily need to worry about that. But it does have the smallest crew cab. You'd have to go to mega cab, and then that changes the dynamics of not only the truck, but your payload and everything like that. But one thing's for sure is the Ford does not skimp on legroom. So I have the front seat almost all the way back because I'm 6'2", and I have probably, oh man, I don't even need a tape measure. There's so much room back here, and then there's plenty of room to move your feet under the seat. But all in all, there is a ton of great room back here. But in the lower trims, you're going to get more hard plastics and stuff, which isn't a big deal for the kiddos because it is easier to clean up. But what I can appreciate is having the extra cup holders here. There's more cup holders in the doors. There is no center pull down here, which is fine. But all the charge ports back here, I mean, they did this really well. With that, you know, and then you have your vents here. Now, if you got the 40-20-40 front seat with the flip up, so a person can sit up there, you'll most likely in these trims, depending on how they're built out by the dealer, they'll may have just one or two charge ports. But for 23, this outlet, this 12-volt cigarette lighter is dropping off, so you probably won't get that anymore. But if you still use it, that's a bummer because a lot of us have power cords that are really good cords, and we're not going to be able to use them soon. Lower trim levels don't get type of retaining clips in here to hold those drinks, so in the XLT it does kind of wobble around, but you can just drop like a washcloth or a piece of paper towel or even a napkin in there if somebody has something that's going to be rattling, like a tall water bottle. But all in all, good room back here for everybody. Again, they do really well with lights and keeping it nice. And I do love the lighter colors on the interiors because the Chevy is super dark. So it's just one of those things. So another thing I love about the Ford, and the Chevy's close, but Ford is the only one that gives you a true flat floor in here. The real issue is if you get this storage, which will collapse, it takes away from being flat. So sometimes we'll have to take the pup with us, and she's kennel trained, so we put the kennel in here, and the one kiddo rides over there, the other kiddo drives his own car, but nonetheless it's tippy. So one thing that's nice about the Chevy is the actual console's shorter, but it gives you more room to put that in. A crew cab Ram with the hump in the middle and the under seat storage, you won't be able to put a kennel in there. You have to put it on the seat if that's how you prefer. And if you get the mega cab, it actually has a completely different setup here for the lower piece, where you're going to have to actually just fold the full seat down and put them up higher, so then the dog kennel's going to be set up here. So just little nuances. Again, most dudes that are buying this, or ladies, they're using it to haul people, not necessarily dogs and whatnot. But that is just something to keep in mind, is if you're looking for a full flat floor, Ford's going to be really, really close, and the Chevy is going to give you the best. But the Chevy does have a slight hump there, but you know, unless you have a small kennel, it's just not going to fit there. This storage is really cool. It does collapse and it does lock, so there is a lock here mechanism, which I do like. So if you're an outdoor enthusiast, or you want to go Christmas shopping, you want to keep gear in here, and you don't want the criminals to see it, you can kind of lock it in here and be good. So I do like that. Other than all, the interior did really, really well. All right, so inside the cab, again, we come back to this screen. Again, this does have, being a 22, it does have wired Android Auto and wireless, I think, Apple CarPlay. I don't use Apple, so I don't know. I do have an Apple phone, I just don't use that feature, and it's not important to me. But the screen resolution is good, and it's more than passable, but it's not as good as all the rest of them. But again, if this stuff doesn't really bother you, this system is super easy to learn. It is good. The actual factory stereo system is great. It's not the best, but it's very good. And then if you step up to the B&O or others in other vehicles, you're going to get a really nice stereo. But this does really well, and like I said, it's super easy. So if you're somebody that doesn't like to have to deal with tech, but you like the ability to have it, the Ford Sync system is super easy. And in 23, you do get this screen standard across basically all the lower trims, and then you get the big 12-inch. Having had the 12-inch, that screen is better resolution-wise, but at the end of the day, it's good. It's not the best in the market. As for backup, we do have the lines and stuff like that, and then you can zone in here. But at the end of the day, the screen is adequate and good. And this one doesn't have a fifth wheel camera. It doesn't even actually have another camera in here at all. It just has the backup. But keeping in mind, no matter how many cameras you have, how good the cameras are, doesn't matter. It just always depends on your display resolution. So if your resolution is just okay, then your camera could be a 4K and your resolution is still going to be the same. So keep that in mind. Other than that, the interior has been really, really good. And after, like I said, 6,200 miles, really good. Now you guys are going to want to know before we get out of here, when I buy all my vehicles new, I keep trip 2 set for my total since I bought it. So I've driven and or idled up to 191 hours. And then I averaged over 13.1 miles per gallon. That's towing, that's city, that's idling, that's everything. I didn't reset it once because you can see down there, my total miles is 6234.8 and I kept it at 6232.1. So again, I didn't buy the truck with 0 miles on it, but from when I took it over, I kept that, and I've always done that. The best fuel economy I've gotten this was about 17 and a half, and I used to average about 14 and a half in the city, but that has recently changed. So before we hop out and talk about the rest of the stuff, this is your standard key for an XL or XLT for 22 and earlier. For 23, it's my understanding they still kept a very similar key, but now it's down poking into the dash right here. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that because that's kind of where sometimes my knee will kick up, and kicking one of those in the dash like Ram used to do that, oh my gosh, it was absolutely horrible. But hopefully they'll bring in the push button start at some point to the Ford in the lower trims. Like Ram, I think you get it across the board. It's just keyless start. It's not keyless entry per se, like you push a button on the door handle. But that's the same way the Chevy is. I don't mind that because I can just reach in my pocket and unlock it, or unlock with the app. But nonetheless, I'm not a huge fan of that. Now, one thing I will tell you, and I think is really great, is Ford does give you their connected services app to remote start and remote unlock. So my key fob you probably saw does not have remote start on it, but I use the app all the time to remote start it from anywhere and check the lock status and everything like that anywhere. And that it's from the last I was told when I bought mine, will be free indefinitely. So that is really nice because a lot of the other manufacturers, they give it to you for a short trial period, and then the next thing you know, you're paying for it. So that might be a bonus to some of you to have that starting service, because you don't have to have it on your fob. Now, again, here is the biggest thing that people question me about: the Godzilla. Why'd you buy that over Power Stroke? Well, again, one is I wanted to try it, and I was nervous as hell when I did buy it because I'd heard all of the problems with it. Now, that being said, the percentage of getting it is low. We've talked about this before, and it's like a 2% chance. But in true form, in my luck, in my history, that's something that seems to be happening here. So again, I bought this truck with the potential of seeing how it would work for the channel. I want to give people options, and a lot of people are having great luck with the Godzilla, and I think a lot of people are going to continue to have that good luck, and I think a lot of people are going to have great luck with the new 6.8. But what has happened is I think they had an issue with a run of parts. A lot of these engines got made, and then some of them got out, and some of them have had problems. Well, at about 6,000 miles, I developed an engine knock, and the knock kind of dissipated or went away. And most people say, well, it wouldn't go away if there was an issue. Well, agreed, but the oil, I ended up checking the oil. It had little bits of metal in it, and then I also then later dropped it. So part of buying a new vehicle, or any vehicle, is the vehicle typically will sell itself, right? We all know that we love the vehicle and everything like that. It draws us to it. We go in and buy it. And all of these vehicles will probably develop an issue at some time. But in history's past, most people could get to about 100 grand, before they had a problem on the miles, as long as they did maintenance and everything like that. Well, in all of my engines, I've always changed oil way before the manufacturer even recommended it. I kind of go on like the severe service schedule, just because, in the old days, you'd do 3,000 or 3,500 miles, whatnot. But now with the synthetic engine oils and the longer intervals, I wanted to do it. And a lot of people say, well, the variable displacement oil pump is the problem with the Godzilla. There are a lot of potential reasons why this engine could have issues. But all in all, I've really enjoyed this engine. It's a blast to drive. Before the engine knock developed, it actually did really well on fuel economy in the grand scheme of things at 14 and a half. Really had no other issues with it. It was a joy to drive. It's comfortable, it's peppy, and everything like that. Since that issue has happened, the fuel economy is down almost 2 miles to the gallon in the city, and on the highway, I haven't really taken on the highway. And a lot of people said, well, just take it out and keep driving until it blows up. Well, the main purpose of this truck was to tow, and I don't want to be put in a position to put myself, my family, or others at risk towing and have this die on the highway. That's just never a good thing to do. Now, again, we talked about the vehicles sell themselves. So what next do we do? So when I bought this, I knew there was potential problems. So then I relied on, well, if it does have issues, it does have a good warranty. So how does Ford handle that issue? And so a lot of people have asked, well, what happened? So I took it to a dealer, told them what was going on. The one day that the engine knock was really the worst is the only day I didn't have my phone with me. I didn't even think about it. I just shut it down really quick. I'm like, okay, let's figure out this out. And so I took it to the first dealer. I'm not going to name any names. Told them what was going on. They kept the truck for a week, came back and said, oh, our techs don't see any engine codes. Didn't have one. And they don't know what the noise is. And really, so just monitor it and see what happens. Well, so I gave it to him for a week. I even offered to have him drop the oil and do an oil analysis. They weren't interested in that. So I brought the truck back. I dropped the oil, and I did a video on that. I'll put the link in it and in the description down below. And basically there was metal in it and larger chunks. I pulled a magnet through all the oil, took a sample. At that point, there was really no sense of sending it off to all these other I forget their name now. I've sent it to them before, but nonetheless, there's several companies that will analyze your oil. There's no sense. I already knew there was an issue. So I called the next dealer, and I was very, forthcoming with all the information and told them, hey, I took this on the deal. This is what's going on. This is what they found. And they basically said, well, there's no sense bringing it to us because we're not going to be able to do anything else. So just do what they're telling you, and that's all good. They're sorry, we can't help you. So the third dealer I didn't tell, but I took it into them, left it with them for a few days. Again, same thing. Mechanics, techs are not the same as they were back in the day when the guys or gals could just hear what was going on. They're like, okay, we needed to investigate. So nonetheless, nobody was interested in fixing it. So again, if you buy a vehicle, you always run the potential of having issues. But how does the follow through work with service? Well, service then failed me. So now it's left to me either A, living with the vehicle, low on power, low on fuel economy, and just sitting here making a payment on it, or I could trade it. Again, I was willing to give them the opportunity because every vehicle can have issues. But again, if they're not even going to address it, then I really have to do it. So the other day, again, I scoped the top of the valve cover, and the resolution of the scope that I purchased is a 1080p, so it's about as good as the screen in there. And I could see from here, now showing it on a camera is this is probably not going to even do it justice, but there were larger pieces of metal or silver flaking material, which I assume is metal, underneath the valve cover. So I am relegated to saying, what am I going to do now? Am I going to keep the truck, make payments on it, and just let it sit here because I don't feel comfortable doing it? It's no longer a blast to drive in the city or anywhere because it kind of feels like a beat dog. So I think at this point I'm going to say that the general is I'm going to either sell it or trade it in at a Ford dealer so it becomes their problem, and hopefully they'll sell it to somebody after they take a look at it, and at that point it'll still be under factory warranty. I've been told that I'll take a hit on it. But I don't feel like I want to sell this vehicle to anybody, even though it's a great truck. Knowing that it has issues, that would just kill me to put it in somebody else's hands that somebody's been working hard. Now you'll say, well, if you're going to sell it to a dealer, well, this becomes the dealer's problem at that point. And if the dealer goes through it and another person comes in and they drive this and they like it, well, then they'll have to follow through with the dealer. But I'm going to take a big hit on it because I want to be as honest as I can and let it become them. And hopefully they'll address it, or somebody won't buy it. It'll just sit at the dealer and until they do get it fixed. But was the Godzilla a great experience? Absolutely. And I think if they were to fix this, they go in and actually tear this thing apart, fix whatever it was, I'd be feeling very comfortable in putting it back into service for me. But at this point, I don't feel it fruitful. And I do have people that are related to me in Ford. I do have a lot of Ford contacts. And it is what it is. Will this be the last Ford I buy? No, probably not. I'll probably buy another one at some point. And if I can get my hands on a 6.8 liter V8, I might add that to the channel. But am I bummed out? Yeah, sure. I honestly didn't think I'd fall into that 2%. But Murphy's Law says that that's usually my luck. But um, if you are in the market for a Ford Super Duty and you are interested in the 23s, I think the engines that had the issue will trickle out sooner than later. I don't feel like we have tons of Fords that works, and a lot of them have a lot of miles on them. So I don't think it's at any bet an issue just to take a swing and buy one if you just love the look of the Ford, the ride of the Ford, and everything about the Ford. I do have several videos out there where I pinned this truck against the new 2024 Chevy Silverado HD. You can see Kong over there. And that truck did do better in towing. Now, does that mean that this did bad? No. But if you're buying a vehicle for towing, and that's important, and you don't want to have, if you like control and stuff like that, the Ford just didn't do as well as the Chevy. But, again, at that time you're splitting hairs, and I think most people are probably towing under 10K, and this Ford will do that job just as good. Now, you'll say, well, if it broke down to 6,000, that is a possibility with every manufacturer. I don't think anybody's building vehicles as well as they used to. And then you look back and you say, well, but the cars back then broke down. Absolutely. I mean, you're not going to be immune from those issues. And again, I think the vast majority, no matter which manufacturer you're buying from, is building a good, reputable vehicle that you're going to be able to drive for probably 100,000 miles before you develop any major issues. But the potential's out there. But guys, I do appreciate you coming over and watching these videos with me. I apologize sometimes, again, I'm working on getting a mic and all this other stuff, but this is all just raw. This is all just bringing it to you real, so there ain't no fake. There is no pizzazz. I'm not a Ford fanboy. I'm not a Chevy fanboy. This is just me just giving you guys true, real life stuff, and I appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoy the content. As for what I recommend the Ford Godzilla, sure. Absolutely. Especially over the Power Stroke, sure, because you're going to have just as many problems with the Power Stroke and everything like that. So, good truck. Bummer for the General, because it looks like he's going to be commanding a new group of soldiers soon that won't be in my house. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.